Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and I'm real excited tonight because, his career started in Shelton, but today he was appointed the new head football coach at Ansonia High School. He replaces longtime coach Tom Brackett. It's going to be an awesome opportunity for him. He was also a state champion in high school as well, so he definitely knows about winning championships. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the head football coach of the Ansonia Chargers, John Mihalko. And Coach, I want to thank you for coming on today. It's a real honor.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
So, Coach, obviously your career at Shelton High was tremendous as a player. You were on that great 2003 championship team that went all the way that year. I think they finished 12-1. And, you've always been able to learn under great coaches. And one in particular was Coach Joe Bonanto. So just talk about that a little bit.
Joe was an amazing coach. I've been very fortunate to have him as my initial coach in high school. I mean, he already had a very good reputation when I went into there, and he expected the best out of his players and expected the best out of me. And not only that, but we wanted to play for him. He inspired us to do our best and play as hard as we could. And I only hope to live up to that kind of legacy.
Right. And Coach, at that time, it was such a great time to be playing high school football, especially in the Valley. And in 2003, I know both Shelton and Ansonia won state titles that year. And, even the previous year, I think Seymour, Ansonia, I'm not sure. I don't think Shelton went to the playoffs that year, but they were right in the mix.
We just missed it that year.
Yeah. Valley football was really special during your run as a high school football player. Just talk about what it was like to play football in the Valley, because to me, nothing really compares to it, Coach.
It's one of those things like in Connecticut, when you talk about football, the Valley is always mentioned. And, Seymour, Shelton, Naugatuck, Ansonia, those programs have a long legacy of being, of winning programs and being good, and year in and year out being good, not just little stretches here and there, but of being consistently good and consistently making playoff pushes. And, so it's a big deal for football in the Valley. It's, one of the things that goes back a long ways, and it's a big legacy.
Right. And Coach, just real quick, playing for Coach Bonanto, a guy who knows so much about not just coaching football, but coaching in general. I mean, he coached 3 sports. He was successful at all 3, coached at the collegiate level for baseball. Talk about just like what you got out of football from him being your coach and the impact it had on you later in life. Because one thing about Coach Bonanto, he was going to teach you football the best way he could, how to execute everything the right way, do your assignments the right way. He was very detailed when it came to all that stuff.
For him, football, he really, it engulfed his life. He was football all the time, 24/7, talking about it. My father was our offensive line coach in high school, and, Joe would meet with Joe almost every day in the weight room, and Joe would be going over stuff with him. We'd be drawing plays up on the whiteboard and going over things. And Joe always had a emphasis in, doing the little things correctly. And I wholeheartedly believe that when you do the little things right, the big things take care of themselves. And he put a lot of emphasis on that. And, as players, we fed on that, and we really wanted to do well, and he definitely motivated us to do so.
Right. And Coach, you obviously had a good idea of what Ansonia football was. I mean, for many years they played Shelton in the regular season. I think 1994 is when Shelton went to the SCC and they weren't able to play Ansonia anymore, but they've always scrimmaged them, and you scrimmaged against Ansonia as a player.
Yes.
You saw firsthand not just the great players they had, but how well they were coached. And that's always been a big thing in Ansonia, is how well they've been coached over the years. I mean, talk about playing against them in the scrimmages. I mean, could you recognize why they were so successful as a program?
Oh yeah. I mean, we call it a scrimmage, but really it was a game. Like, we played, full game, 4 quarters. I can remember my freshman year, Dan Orlovsky was on the team, and going into like the last quarter, he got whacked really, really hard. And you figure like most scrimmages nowadays, you don't want to hit the quarterback. You got to save him for the season. That didn't matter to either one of the sides. We went full speed. And my senior year, playing against Patrick Rowley, Kenny Tinney, those guys are really good players, and especially Kenny Tinney. I mean, God, he was so fast. Best player in the state that year. So that's a tough team, and they were good. And again, they had the attitude. It wasn't just all show. They didn't just show up and have you were scared of me because I have Ansonia on my chest. They played hard. They earned that name. They earned those championships, and that's the kind of attitude that I liked, and that's the kind of attitude Ansonia has.
Right. So, Coach, for people who may not be familiar with you, what after high school ended, did you continue to play football in college?
Yeah, I played football at Trinity College in Hartford. I played for 4 years there. I played center in college. Obviously, most college athletes don't go both ways. But yeah, I played center there I started for 3 years. I was all league for 2. I made the first team all coast for all Division I or whatever for 2 years. I really enjoyed playing college football. I loved it. Obviously, it's a step up from high school football, but I loved every minute of playing college football, and it's a huge commitment for a player from high school going there. Obviously you can't take classes after 2:00, and you have lifting, all hours of the day, and team meetings, and you have to watch film and things like that. But high school, honestly, our high school at Shelton, we did a lot. It prepared me very much for that kind of commitment you needed to have. So it was good. I loved playing in college. It was great.
And Coach, I'm sure playing at the college level, it helped you prepare yourself to be a coach someday, especially an assistant, because you were learning so much more about the game. Not that you didn't learn a lot in high school, but you're learning so much because you are watching film constantly in college. And, you're kind of, I think high school kids understand the game, but I think as they get to college, they have a whole new perspective of how they have to not change the way they play, but it's a different level. And you really tend to understand the game even more than you did in high school.
Oh, very much. I mean, compared to high school or compared to college, high school is easy. I mean, I can remember the whole offensive line in high school and no problem. We get to college, learning center was hard. And center, I have to call the defense out. I have to make my blocking assignment, and then everyone bases it off of yours. So even more so, I think playing offensive line and center in particular in college really lent my mind to how defenses work, and obviously offensive schemes. It helped me out as a coach, I think. It gave me a good foundation to start with.
And let me ask you, Coach, after college ended, did you get into coaching right away? Did it take a little bit?
I coached for 2 years at Plymouth State University. The head coach there, who, by the way, is still the head coach there, Paul Castonia, called up my head coach at college and said, "Hey, you got anybody?" And he gave him my name. And, after college ended in May, I got a call in like June, wondering, what I was doing, if I wanted to coach. And I did. I wanted to coach. And yeah, I went up there, and I was 2 seasons at Plymouth State, which were an amazing time. And coaching college again is another one where, and that's even the next step. A lot of kids don't realize what college coaches have to do to get prepared. I mean, college coaching too, it's 14-hour days, 7 days a week throughout the entire football season. 14 is probably even cutting it short a little bit on some days. It's like 15, 16-hour days. Like you wake up, you go to the office, you watch film, you prepare for practice, you go home, sleep, you eat something real quick, go sleep, then come back, wake up, and rinse and repeat. 7 days a week for basically 4 months. And then on top of that, then you go to recruiting afterwards, but it's a lot, all the preparation that you do as a college head coach, also prepared me for high school, for coaching.
Yeah. Yeah. And Coach, I think that's always beneficial when you start at the college level, because you see the type of level of play it is and the commitment it is. So when you go back to high school, you have that mind of what commitment is. You understand what it takes to be successful and what you need to do. So those couple of years coaching college, they really had to be so rewarding
Oh yeah, it was
just for the
really
simple
good.
fact that
It was really good.
right.
I was also after Plymouth, I went to WestCon. I coached there for 2 years too. But yeah, and also it gives me something to give to the players, like to tell them, to give them perspective on, what it takes to be a college athlete and what you actually need in college. Again, the kids think that commitment for football, high school football commitment is, a couple hours a day. And I go, it's not even, doesn't hold a candle to what you have to do in college. So to prepare them in that way and give them some perspective is really good. And again, it helps me out as well.
Right. So let me ask you, Coach, were you an assistant at any other high school besides Ansonia, or was Ansonia your first go around?
No. So Nick Apria, after I left WestCon kind of later in the year. In July, my friend Nick Apria, who I've known since I was 10 years old, said, "Hey, I'm coaching at Emmett O'Brien, and I'm trying to build up the program." This was like the second year of the program there at Emmett O'Brien. He goes,
Yeah.
"I'm trying to build this program, and I really, if you want to help out, that's fine." And of course, I had no. At the time, I was debating what I wanted to do. I was teetering between continuing coaching college or going to get my master's degree and coach, maybe high school. And I decided to go get my master's. I wanted to be a teacher. So I had a little more free time, but obviously I couldn't coach college. So, I went to go help him out at Emmett O'Brien. So I was actually at Emmett O'Brien for 2 seasons before I went to Ansonia.
Right. And, you mentioned Coach Apria. I was very happy because I think it was in the 2017 season. That team had a great year. They went 8-2 and they made the playoffs. And
Yeah, I
that
called
was
Nick up and talked to him about it, man. It was an awesome year. They switched the offenses up a little bit. They had a new guy to the staff, helped them out with the single wing stuff, and they had a great year that year. I think they lost to St. Joe's that year, but it was a great, I called him up, once a week trying to talk to him and, see how it was going. It was awesome. I was really proud of that program from where they started, and he did a lot. I mean, that program had nothing when we were there. We practiced on this dirt. I had to paint the lines on the field. Like that's what we were doing. Like I was painting lines on the field. That's the kind of practice we had. We had like storage units. Like we had a giant shed somewhere we had to store all our equipment in. It was kind of crazy. So that program's come a long way since that early 2013 seasons.
And you think about this too, Coach, the bus rides, because when you're a tech school and you're playing in other tech schools, you're traveling all over the place. So those were some long bus rides. So, I mean, that in itself, I mean, you realize
going to Putnam, go to Tortolo, Putnam, in the northeast corner of Connecticut really puts you in perspective on where you are in the world. That was a long bus ride, and it's worse when you lose. So it's a long bus ride there, and then it's a long one back. So that was we had some rough bus rides.
Exactly. So, Coach, what year did you come on the Ansonia staff, and tell me how that came about as well?
So, Butch Marazzi was the head coach before, or not head coach, but he was the offensive line coach before me had left, and Tom was looking for another guy. And of course, Tom called Joe Bonanza, who at the time was, Tom would call him up, ask him for advice. He says, "Hey, you got any names?" And jokingly, Joe gave him, he said, "I got 2 guys for you, but they both have the same last name." And he gave him my dad's number and my number. And, my dad obviously being retired from the game, Tom called me up and, we met, had a quick meeting, and, the offense he wanted to run was something I had known, power football, stuff we ran at Shelton. And he goes, "Can you handle it?" I go, "Yeah, in my sleep, I know that stuff." So I think that fit. And, my 2014 was my first year. That was Jaquan McKnight's senior year. And, after that, it just kind of rolling with it ever since then. It's my upcoming 12th season. So, yeah, I've been there ever since.
Right. And the first taste of the championship on that staff for you was 2016. That was a very underrated team. They went through a lot of adversity that year, but they went undefeated, had a tremendous year. So talk about, and that was also title number 20. So that had to be a great feeling for you to be a part of title 20.
that was, and like I said, the 2 years prior, we had also gone to the title game and just came short. Valley Regional beat me my first year, last play of the game, and we lost to Bloomfield the year before. They had that, I forgot the kid's name, but he had an awesome quarterback. So we're getting there to Rocky Hill, and we wanted it badly, and those kids, and we finally got to a class that had never been a part of a state title team. They all really wanted it. And they just worked their butts off, and it made it happen. And that was a gritty game too. They line up, Rocky Hill back then line up in the hammer like kind of like we do now. It's downhill football. It's a grueling game. It's very physical. And coming away with a W for number 20 was something special. It was really, really good. Kids, like I said, kids work really hard, and that was definitely a nice win there.
Right, and then another title that would come for you would be in 22, and that was a great Ansonia team, and a team that Coach Brackett had talked to me a couple weeks ago. There was no game that was a given for them. Like every game was a hard-fought battle, but they found ways to win, and they found a way to win this state title. So that had to be one of the proudest teams you were part of.
Battling through adversity is tough. And it's one of the reasons I think football is such a beneficial sport for young men. Having to fight through adversity, when you're tired and when you're losing, can I muster the strength to fight and battle my way through it? And again, I think we were down, 6 or 7 games that year. I think we were losing at halftime to come back to win. That speaks volumes to the mental toughness and physical toughness those kids had that year. And it was just, again, down to Bloomfield at halftime. They score like the last second, and before the half starts. And, we just kind of kept our composure, kept our cool, and played our game and started wearing teams down. And, that second half, we didn't give up any points to a really good Bloomfield team. So it was something special. That was a good year. Good year.
Right. And then,
good to get back in the habit. It was like 7 years prior. The 2016 was the last time we even made it to that St. Joe's year was the year last year we went to a title game. So it was a pretty long drought of not making it that far in. So
right.
Good.
And of course, this year, Coach, after a tough loss on Thanksgiving Eve to Naugatuck, these kids bounced back. Who could forget that Woodland game? I mean, the last play, that was unbelievable.
One of the best plays I've ever seen in a high school game. Truly, it's one of the best plays I've ever seen in any game. To win a game in that fashion, again, speaks volumes to the kids' toughness and their ability to overcome adversity.
Yeah, and this time around playing Bloomfield, it was really no sweat. You guys had that game decided by the third quarter. So, I mean, that has to feel good as a coach when you know that going into the fourth quarter, you pretty much have this game, though you never want to count a team out, but you guys were in good shape, and it has to be a great feeling because as coaches, you guys work hard all year to make this dream a reality. So when you see something like that, you really want to be able to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, Bloomfield every year, it just seems to be always Ansonia or Bloomfield. I know Bloomfield. We play them again this year. First week of the season. They're a good team every year, and I never count a team out, no matter what you think the score is, especially in a championship game, because that's when you pull out all the stops. Obviously, we were doing really well. We were rolling. We had all the momentum, but again, those kind of games, it could change in a minute. But the kids just hung on and kept fighting. We pulled that one out, so it was good.
Right. So, Coach, before we get to how the head coaching job came about, how emotional was it for you? I know for the players and coaches, it was very emotional, but for you personally, being on the staff of Coach Brackett, like you said, for 11 years, how emotional was it for you when he talked to you guys and told you he was stepping aside?
You can always say like, oh, is this his last year? Not 18, 19 seasons he's done it. Is this it? Is this it? And you say that in your mind, but you're never really ready for it to happen. And then when it did happen, it's it's a shock. He's a guy who's dedicated his life basically to this program and this town, and to the kids, really, to those athletes. It's something memorable, and it was kind of tough, trying to take that in, that he's stepping down. And there's also uncertainty, like, well, what's happening next? Where are we going to go from here? So that was a bit of a shock to us, but it is and it isn't. Like, we kind of figured it was going to come eventually. It's just always wondering when, and this is the year.
Right. Now, Coach, I have to believe any coach that steps aside and they retire, they always have somebody they're going to recommend to replace them. And obviously, Coach Brackett recommended you. Did he ever talk to you, like a year in advance or a couple months in advance, and tell you that when he does leave, that you are the guy he wanted to replace him?
Not particularly in that sense. Over the years, though, he's given me more responsibility. He's given me more leeway. I will say this: even early in my career, I never felt that Tom would never not listen to me. He always heeded whatever I said, and took it always took it under advisement. Always, but then he obviously would do what he wanted anyway. But like, at least he would listen to me. I never felt that he was ignoring me at all. But over the course, I felt like he's listened to me more, and he's starting to he trusts me a lot to do a lot of different things, and and I don't think he's never really said to me that I want you to be the next guy. But I think it's just one of those things where he just expects his coaches to always be ready, be the next. You should be coaching your ass off every time. You should be the next guy. I should not have to tell you want to be the next guy. You should want it. So that's kind of the way I've looked at it, and that's your turn to step up. It's your turn to step up. So.
Right. And did he encourage you to apply after he had talked to the coaches about him leaving? Oh. Did he tell you pretty much?
Yeah, absolutely. He said, I definitely want one of you young guys to step up and take the job. And, he said, you should definitely be applying for it. And, I'm still nervous about it, obviously, but I'm more excited now than when I was a couple weeks ago or a week ago, when I heard the announcement. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a new venture for me, and but we're still gonna have the same staff, so it's I don't plan on changing the attitude of Ansonia very much. And I know people think we might be passing the ball a little more, but I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
Right. And Coach, one of the things that, and it hasn't happened a lot lately, but over the years it's happened, where a new coach comes into a new program, and sometimes they try to fix things that aren't broken. So I'm sure you're just going to go into this not trying to fix anything, just keep the ball going, keep everything moving, keep the program going. The difference is you're the head coach now. You're responsible for this team, not just like wins and losses, but, preparing them for everyday life as well. So you don't really have to come in and fix too much. All you have to do is just keep it going and keep, the program the way it's always been.
Well, that's a testament to Ansonia in general. I think when Jack retired, Tom took over, and it was the same kind of thing, let's just, he comes off of, 2006, and, let's just keep this program moving in the right direction. Let's always keep moving forward, keep the kids, keep it positive, keep the kids moving, keep them motivated. I don't think I want to change too much. There's not a whole lot. As long as the attitude is there and we have, the Ansonia way, I think we'll be good. We'll be all right.
And think about this, Coach. Since 1987, Ansonia's only had two coaches. They had Jack Hunt for 19 years. They had Tom for 18 years. So now you're the third coach in the last 38 years. So, I know there's pressure, but at the same time, I think you look at it as a wonderful opportunity, because, when somebody gets the chance to manage the Yankees or coach the Boston Celtics, they're going to jump at it most of the time because of the tradition and everything that goes along with it. And you're getting to be a head coach of a high school program that has the most championships in the state of Connecticut, and in a lot of ways is the standard of high school football.
I agree with you completely. That's the exact way you got to look at it. Not to mention I got tons of support. My wife is super supportive of this. She was, excited about it. My family, the rest of the coaches, are all behind me, and not to mention, my family at Ansonia High School, they're all rooting for me too. I'm very, very grateful to have that support, and I think the kids too. They're behind me as well. I'm not some new face to them. I'm someone they trust and respect. So, again, I can't speak. I can't speak enough about how great this program has been, and between Jack and between Tom, all the great things they've done, the foundation they've built. I just want to keep building on top of it. I want to just keep doing what the program has been, and keep it motivated, keep it moving. And I hope I can do half of what. If I could do half of what those guys have done, I feel like I will have been a success if I could do that.
Exactly. Now, Coach, let me ask you: were you able to speak to your players yet since you were named head coach? Did you get to have a team meeting yet with them?
Yeah, I had a team meeting. I think that a lot of players kind of knew already, like, what was going to happen. But today was actually the first day I got to address them officially as the head coach. I just told them, guys, I'm not changing much. Let's just get them in the weight room. Let's get ready for summer. Let's get after it. And then, let's hit the ground running when it comes August, and, let's play Ansonia football, and hopefully we could be playing in December. That's what I told them. I go, nothing's going to change.
Right. And Coach, let me ask you this. I know Coach Brockett always called the offense. Will you be calling the offense this year? Is that the plan?
As of right now, I think that's going to be the plan. I'll be on offense, and Shane will be in charge of D. He did a great job these past couple of seasons, and with the defensive backs, and he did a great job, awesome job last year and the year before calling the defense. So I don't want to change that. And like I said, Tom has done an amazing job with the offense. I'm going to have to learn. Obviously, there's going to be some learning curve for me, but I think we'll manage.
Right. And now, Coach, I know coaches, when they're high school coaches, sometimes they want to go to the next level, but it sounds like to me, this is where you want to be. You want to be here for the long term. You're not looking to really go anywhere else. You want to be with this program, and probably, for the most part, now that you're the head coach, this will be like this will be not your final job, but your long-term head coaching job. Am I correct?
We'll see. We'll see how it goes, but that sounds like a good plan to me.
Right. So, Coach, before we go, what is the message that you are going to send to your players, not just when you meet with them in the weight room or conditioning, but that first official day of practice in August? What is the message you're going to, send to them that first day? What are you going to stress to them?
Life changes. There's always going to be change in your life. Like I said, you're going to graduate high school. Life's going to change. You're going to graduate college. Life's going to change. You're going to get a job. You're going to have a girlfriend. You're going to have kids. You're going to get a wife. Like, everything's going to change eventually in your life. And change isn't always bad. Change can be good. I know it's scary, but if you attack it, if you don't shy away from it, if you muscle through it, change can be good for you. And I don't want to change much, but the attitude is all going to be, we're going to get after them. I don't want to slow down. I don't want to have to tell the kids to be hesitant that they got a new coach. I want to keep it rolling. So that's kind of be my message for them. And, change isn't always the worst thing. And we'll survive, and we'll do all right. Right.
And Coach, I just thought about this. Obviously when you're in high school, you think of different things, like whenever you play for your high school, the goal someday is to always be the head coach. You think that way in high school, but then things change. Then maybe you might want to be a coach somewhere else. But I bet when you got your diploma in June of 2003, never did you think in a million years someday you'd be the head coach of the Ansonia Chargers. Now you are. And I mean, that has just got to be something that's really exciting for you, because you are coaching, like I said, maybe the greatest high school football team ever.
This sport has given me so much. It's given me, such character development. It's given me such experience. And I love this game. And if I can impart that love and that experience to other kids, it'd be really worth it. And I'm super excited to be the next head coach of this program. I love it here. I love Ansonia. I love this program, and I want to make it work. So I'm gonna attack it just like I'm gonna tell the kids to.
Well, Coach, it's going to be really exciting. I look forward to watching it. I look forward to seeing your progression. But best of luck. I know the first year is really the hardest year because you got to get through that first year. But I know that you're going to do fine. I mean, you seem like a guy that understands the tradition of Ansonia football, and you understand that the most important thing is not changing too much with the program. Keep the program the way it's always been and why it's been so successful for 50 years now. So best of luck to you. And I look forward to talking to you when the season comes, and go get it. And congratulations again.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. And of course, folks, you just heard from the new head football coach of the Ansonia Chargers, John Mihalko. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi saying good night, everyone.